जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् अभय चरणारविंद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Nitai Gaur Premanande. Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 28, titled Kapila's Instructions on Devotional Service, text number 18. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam Punya Shloka Yashaskaram Dhyaye Devam Samagrangam Yavannachyavate manaha. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam Punya shloka yashaskaram Dhyaye devam samagrangam Yavannachyavate manaha. Vaishnavis. Yatita yashasam Late manaha. Word to word meaning. Mataji, would you like to recite? Kirtanya. Word singing. Tirtha yashasam. The glories of the Lord. Punya shloka. Of the devotees. Yashakaram. Enhancing the glory. Dhyayet. One should meditate. Devam. Upon the Lord. Samagra angam. All the limbs. Yavat. As much as. Na. Not. Chavate. Deviates. Manaha. The mind. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for His glories enhance the glories of His devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon His devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. Purport. We'll read a little bit of the purport, and then as we go through the class, we will read the full purport. It's quite long today. One has to fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. When one is accustomed to thinking of one of the innumerable forms of the Lord, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Narayana, etc., he has reached the perfection of yoga. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. A person who has developed pure love for the Lord and whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of transcendental loving exchange always sees within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees especially see the Lord in the beautiful blackish form of Shyama Sundara. That is the perfection of yoga. This yoga system should be continued until the mind does not vacillate for a moment. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha. The form of Vishnu is the highest individuality and is always visible to sages and saintly persons. We'll do Mangalacharan and then we'll discuss the other paragraphs through the class. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vidamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhuter Mahadbir Yayima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamosha Purusha Bhunkter Gunamsho Dashashoda Satmaka Solang Krishishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satata Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panktanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna. So with the blessings of Shri Radha Gopinath, Shri Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, I wish to offer my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas present here today. And let us speak and hear from Srimad Bhagavatam for the pleasure of their lordships. And by doing so, we all get gladdened as well. So we are hearing this beautiful chapter 28 of Canto 3, where Kapila Muni is instructing on the execution of devotional service, on how to perform devotional service. And the most important part that he speaks about here is on how to meditate on the Supreme Lord. So over the last few verses we have seen how he begins by saying that one has to practice different austerities at the beginning and then lead a clean and a regulated life, lead a pure life. And then by practicing yoga and pranayama, by practicing different breathing exercises and all that, then when one is able to restrain the senses and the mind, and when one is free of all mental disturbances, then what does one do? Not just stop there, okay, now I'm free, I'm happy, I've controlled all my senses, I've controlled my mind. No. So that is where bhakti actually begins. So once when our mind is listening to the soul, when the mind is listening to the Paramatma in the heart, when we have come to that stage, then what do? We start meditating on the supreme, beautiful form of the Lord. So Kapila Muni says that one begins to meditate intensely on the Lord in the heart. So he first begins by describing the beauty of Lord Vishnu, who is residing in the heart, who has a beautiful, cheerful countenance, and he has a beautiful smile. He has beautiful reddish lotus petal-like eyes, and his body is so soft and it is dark in complexion, just like the petals of a blue lotus. And then he's holding Shankha Chakra and Gada in his hands. And he has the mark of Srivatsa on his chest. That is, which signifies the presence of Goddess Lakshmi in his heart. And he's wearing the Kaustubha gem. And he's wearing a beautiful pearl necklace and different ornaments and a beautiful garland that is so fragrant. And then he's wearing a beautiful shining yellow cloth around his waist and around his hips. And by looking at all this, looking at his beautiful armlets, his anklets, his shining jewels and everything, and he's so youthful and he's charming. By looking at all this, what happens? A devotee's mind is completely attracted to the Lord, that one loses all other interest in any other material activities. One is completely drawn to the Lord. Just as when someone likes somebody, the more they hear about that person or the more they keep seeing that person, then they are attracted. So that is, just an example in a day-to-day life. But when we apply that principle to Krishna, then that becomes the perfection of our attraction. And that is Krishna, who is all attractive. Krishna means the one who attracts us. And the Lord is supremely attractive. People in this world, we can attract each other to a certain degree. But the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is all attractive. And that is what Srila Prabhupada says. And so that brings us to today's verse, where Kapila Muni says that singing the glories of the Lord and the glories of his devotees are both glorious. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram dhyaye devam samagrangam yavanna chavate manaha. So here Kapila Muni is saying that one has to meditate on the beautiful form of the Lord on all his limbs, that is samagra angam. And until one's mind is completely fixed and doesn't deviate. So that is the main point. And in the next few verses, Kapila Muni is going to beautifully describe the form of the Lord, on how to meditate, starting from his beautiful 2 lotus feet, and then to meditate on his legs, beautiful legs, and he's wearing anklets around his feet, and then going upwards to meditate on his thighs, which are a storehouse of energy, and then to meditate on his loins, his hip, his waist, and then going upwards to meditate on his beautiful chest, which has the Srivatsa, and to meditate on his shoulders, his beautiful arms, and then his neck, where he is wearing a pearl necklace and different shining ornaments, and then to meditate on his beautiful face, his lotus petal-like eyes, his sharp nose, his ears that are wearing alligator shape-like earrings, and then his dancing eyebrows, and then his beautiful smile. And then Kapila Muni says that one has to also meditate on the laughter of Vishnu, because when the Lord laughs, we can see his beautiful jasmine bud-like teeth. So then when this meditation happens, what does Srila Prabhupada says? That this is the perfection of yoga. So after practicing all these yogic practices, which he mentioned before, of sitting straight, of breathing, of controlling the mind, of how to perform all these austerities, and then by this meditation, when one's mind is fixed on the beauty of the Lord, that is the perfection of yoga. And Srila Prabhupada then says that one who has developed a pure love of the Lord by this constant meditation, he can see the Lord within the heart and also reveal it to others. So it is said in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena Santas sadhaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti Yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yam shama sundaram. So this beautiful Shyam Sundar, when a devotee whose eyes are tinged with love and devotion, when such a pure devotee is able to behold Sri Krishna's in his heart, then what happens? Such a devotee is able to also reveal the knowledge and share that love that he has developed with everyone. So Lord Brahma says, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. To that Supreme Lord Govinda, I bow down. So here, Srila Prabhupada quotes this other beautiful verse from Rig Veda Samhita, which we also chant when we do the Achaman mantra. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha Dviviva Chakshu Ratatam Tad Viprasho Vipanyavo Jagravamsha Samindhate Vishnoryat Paramam Padam. So what does this mean? Just as those with ordinary vision see the sun's rays in the sky, so the wise and learned devotees always see the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. And because those highly praiseworthy and spiritually awake Brahmanas can see that abode, they can also reveal it to others. So we know the 3 stages of realizing the Supreme Lord. That is the Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So now just the general people, who may be meditating, they might go up to the Brahman level. So that is just as they see with an ordinary vision. So they look at the sun's rays and they think that this is it. So the comparison is given to the rays of the sun planet, and the Lord who rules the sun planet, the Surya Dev, Vivaswan. So devotees see that person. They don't just stop with looking at the effulgence of the sun or just the sun planet, which is compared to the Paramatma who is in the heart. But we go beyond and see the Lord as a person. And therefore devotees realize that the Lord resides in his beautiful abode along with his devotees, along with Srimati Radharani, along with the Ashtasakis and the innumerable gopis and gopis of Vrindavana. And he's having beautiful pastimes with all of them. So the devotees who can see the Lord with such pure love, then they can reveal this to others. And therefore, it is worth singing the glories of the Lord and the glories of his devotees. So that is what is said in today's verse. So in the next part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that meditating on the Lord in the heart and worshipping him in the temple is one and the same, and that it is not different. So Srila Prabhupada says, the same purpose is served when a devotee worships the form of the Lord in the temple. There is no difference between devotional service in the temple and meditation on the form of the Lord, since the form of the Lord is the same whether he appears within the mind or in some concrete element. There are 8 kinds of forms recommended for the devotees to see. The forms may be made out of sand, clay, wood, or stone. They may be contemplated within the mind or made of jewels, metal, or painted colors. But all the forms are of the same value. It is not that one meditates on the form within the mind, sees differently from one who worships the form in the temple. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute, and there is therefore no difference between the two. The impersonalists who desire to disregard the eternal form of the Lord imagine some round figure. They especially prefer the Omkara, which also has form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that Omkara is the letter form of the Lord. Similarly, there are statue forms and painting forms of the Lord. So, as we are reading this verse, we might think, I'm not so qualified, I'm not so pure enough, I haven't practiced so much of austerities that I can actually see the Lord in my heart. And for that, we have this beautiful answer that when we simply come to the temple, when we take darshan of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, and when we simply serve him, that is equal to meditating on the Lord in the heart. So we don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to, strictly close our eyes and sit in a perfect posture, on kusha grass, and then look at the tip of the nose and start meditating and then see the Lord in the heart. Now, we may not be at that level. And that is why we have this beautiful process of bhakti given to us by Srila Prabhupada, where we can simply come to the temple and all this is covered. All the meditation on the Lord is very beautifully covered simply in our temple program. So starting from Mangalarati, we are starting to look at the Lord. And then we are glorifying devotees when we bow down and we say Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha. And then we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is again non-different from the Supreme Lord himself. So throughout the day, and then we have Darshanarati. So then again we are looking at the beautiful Shri Shri Radha Gopinath from his lotus feet. So every day when we come, you like to look at what is Gopinath wearing today. So today he is wearing a beautiful dark blue and pink dress. And he's wearing beautiful flower anklets. He's wearing a beautiful jewel around his waist. And there are beautiful flowers on his head. He's wearing a green pearl necklace and bluish purple armlets. So like that, we can just meditate on the form of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And simply by doing that, we are invoking that love in our heart for him. So in the next paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada focuses on this beautiful point, Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. That is, the devotee is called Punya Shloka. So, another significant word in this verse is Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. The devotee is called Punya Shloka. As one becomes purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord, so one can become purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. So this is a very important point for us to realize. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. So, attaining that level of purity is way far away for all of us who are bound in this material world. But we try. But what we do, we meditate on those realized souls who have developed that pure love for Krishna and who are serving him constantly. Starting from our gurus, from our Gurudev, from Srila Prabhupada, and then going upwards, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then all his associates, and then like that going to the spiritual world, the gopis, and all those who are associated with the Lord. So that is what Srila Prabhupada explains here as well. And then he narrates the pastime of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was once chanting the holy names of the gopis when his students criticized him. Why are you chanting the names of the gopis? Why not Krishna? Lord Chaitanya was irritated by this criticism, and so there was some misunderstanding between him and his students. He wanted to chastise them for desiring to instruct him on the transcendental process of chanting. So here Srila Prabhupada is focusing on Punya Shloka. That is, the devotees who are the pure devotee who also has to be glorified just as we glorify Krishna. So it is said that out of the 64 qualities that Lord Krishna has, 4 are exclusive to him. So what are those 4? Rupa Madhuri, his beautiful form which is unparalleled. Venu Madhuri, he plays the flute very beautifully. And then we have Leela Madhuri, that is all his pastimes which the Lord beautifully performs. And Bhakta Madhuri, he is always surrounded by his devotees. Please come. As we are talking about devotees, we have more devotees coming in. Please sit down, so we can all hear about Shri Krishna. So all these devotees who have just come, they have made use of this long weekend holiday. Instead of going just somewhere and, having some fun, they have chosen to start the day with Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So welcome to our temple. Let's say a big Hari Bol for all of them. Hari Bol. So, Bhakta Madhuri. So, Radha Gopinath is always surrounded by his bhaktas, his dear devotees. And we see when we chant Lord Chaitanya's name, we don't just say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What do we say? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we are chanting the names of all of his close associates. Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, and then Srivas Thakur. And so like that, and then what do? We don't stop. We say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Here again, we are not chanting just Krishna's name. We're saying Hare Krishna. So Hare refers to Srimati Radharani, who's the most beloved devotee of Sri Krishna, who is none other than an expansion of the Lord, his pleasure-giving potency. And so we are glorifying Srimati Radharani along with Sri Krishna whenever we chant his name. And also Rama. Now Rama has many different ways of understanding. It could be Lord Ram, it is Lord Balarama, and also Rama as in Srimati Radharani, who gives pleasure to Krishna. So that way we are constantly meditating on the form of the Lord and his dear devotees. So we'll hear this beautiful pastime which Srila Prabhupada is quoting in the purport. So once when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was still young, when he was Nimai Pandit, before he had actually renounced. As Nimai Pandit, one day when he was sitting in his house, he was in just an ecstatic mood of remembering the gopis. In his love, he suddenly called out, Gopi, Gopi. What did he say? Ekadina gopi bhave grihe tavashiya gopi gopi namalaye vishanahana. So one day as he was sitting, he started just calling Gopi. And then suddenly a student who entered the house, he heard this and he was astonished. What is this? Nimai Pandit, he's sitting here and he's calling out to Gopi. This is just so, it's not the right thing to do. And then what does he say? Krishna nama nala. Okay, my pronunciation is not too good. Krishna nama nalaukena, Krishna nama dhanya, gopi gopi bali leba ki bahaya punya. So this boy was asking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why are you chanting the names of the gopis and not Lord Krishna, who can actually give you a pious result by chanting his names? On hearing this, immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got a bit angry because the student did not actually understand. He did not know the depth, or he did not realize the importance of that beautiful exchange of rasa that Nimai Pandit was relishing at that point. So then what happened? This boy, he went and he ran away as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry. Then immediately Nimai Pandit, he took a stick in his hand and he started running behind this boy. And then all his associates, they had to pacify him and they brought him back. And then this boy, he went and he complained to a whole lot of other 1,000 students, saying that Nimai Pandit is chanting Gopi, and not Krishna's name. Now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nimai Pandit, when he heard all this, he felt in his heart, okay, I have come here to deliver all these fallen souls. So if they are so misled,
So unless I make them bow down to me and pay obeisances to me, they will not be delivered. So when they pay obeisances to me, then all their sins will be automatically purified and they will be liberated. So with this conclusion in his heart, Nimai Pandit approaches Keshav Bharati, who also visited the town of Nadia at that time, and he put forth his petition to say that he wants to take sannyasa, that he wants to renounce, so that after that all these boys who were chastising him, they would then realize and then they would come and surrender to him. So later on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he takes sannyas. So we see that just singing the glories of the Lord and his devotees are both glorious. So that is the point we are trying to reflect on. And Srila Prabhupada continues to say that the beauty of the Lord is that the devotees who are connected with his activities are also glorified. Arjuna, Prahlada, Janaka Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, and many other devotees were not even in the renounced order of life, but were householders. Some of them, such as Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, were born of demoniac families. Prahlad Maharaj's father was a demon, and Bali Maharaj was a grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. But still they have become famous because of their association with the Lord. Anyone who is eternally associated with the Lord is glorified with the Lord. The conclusion is that a perfect yogi should always be accustomed to seeing the form of the Lord, and unless the mind is fixed in that way, he should continue practicing yoga. So here Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing that any devotee or anyone who is associated with the Lord is to be glorified. Anyone who is engaged in his pastimes, in his leelas, they are to be glorified. And that is why we also glorify all the devotees. Now, for example, recently we have been seeing some beautiful short videos made by our media team in the temple. So recently, just last night, we saw an amazing video of the Mangalarati program on Snanyatra Day, where all the devotees are singing and dancing and cheerfully glorifying the Lord, and they are immersed in that bliss. So, now, what do these videos do? They are actually glorifying the devotees. And when anyone is seeing that, then they get inspired. Oh, even I want to chant like this. Even I want to dance like this. So by doing that, we are sharing Krishna's love for Krishna with everyone. So, we will continue to hear another beautiful pastime that glorifies a devotee of the Lord. So once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting in a garden and he was resting with his eyes closed. And again he was in his mood of ecstatic love. And at that time, King Prataparudra, who was always very eager to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was dressed in his Vaishnava clothes, not as a king, but he dressed himself like a Vaishnava, following the instruction of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he slowly approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He first paid his obeisances, he took permission from his devotees, and then he started massaging the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he started reciting the verses from chapter 31 of Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the beautiful intimate pastimes of Lord Krishna and the gopis in the Rasa Leela. And then he started reciting the Gopi Geet verses, where the gopis are expressing their mood of separation from Krishna. And as soon as King Prataparudra started reciting the verse, Tava Katamritam, immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just got so ecstatic and he just embraced him. And he felt so much love for him, and tears started flowing in his eyes. And he said, go on, keep chanting, keep reciting. And then both of them started reciting. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapam Shravanamangalam Srimadaadatam Bhuvi grinanti ye Bhuridajana. So as soon as the king recited this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became so ecstatic and he embraced him again. And then he gave him all his mercy. Now what does this verse again say? That simply by the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. So the gopis are saying this, that just by hearing your pastimes, by chanting your pastimes, it simply relieves our miseries. These narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of the God are most munificent. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started telling King Prataparudra, you are munificent, you are munificent, you are the greatest. So here even the Lord is glorifying his dear devotee who is actually glorifying him. So it is a beautiful exchange. We cannot just simply describe it in words. So that is what we are seeing in today's verse, where, what did we say? Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram. That is, the glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. And therefore one should meditate upon the form of the Lord and his devotees. And one should meditate on the beautiful form of the Lord until the mind is fixed. So we will conclude with a beautiful meditation on the Ashta Sakhis of Srimati Radharani, because they are the most dearest associates of Lord Krishna. They are always serving to please Shri Krishna. So Srimati Radharani is the topmost gopi, and she can simply please Krishna with just her glance on him. But yet she feels that she needs to take her love to greater heights, and she expands herself into innumerable gopis of Vrindavana, so that they can all be engaged in serving Krishna. And through them she is serving Krishna, and she is deriving that pleasure of giving the fullest potential of her love for Krishna. So out of all these gopis, there are 8 principal gopis. And who are they? Lalita, you can repeat, Lalita, Vishaka, Champakalata, Chitra, Tungavidya, Induleka, Rangadevi, and Sudevi. So there is this beautiful book, if any of you would like to get it later, you can, which has some beautiful descriptions of these 8 gopis. So I got this book from our little young book distributor Meera at Devamrit Swami Maharaj's seminars. So I thought I will share with all of you a little bit. So let us try to hear and meditate on these gopis. Now there is a lot given here. I'm just going to read a few sentences, just given the time. So Lalita Devi is the most important, being the leader and controller. Lalita is famous as Srimati Radharani's constant companion. She expertly speaks the most outrageous and arrogant replies. And when the arrogant gopis pick a quarrel with Krishna, she is at the forefront of the conflict. She and Sri Krishna are very, very dear to each other, and her service is to bring camphor and tambula, betel leaves, to him. Vishaka Devi was born at the exact same moment as her dear friend Srimati Radharani. Vishaka's garments are decorated with stars, and her complexion is like lightning, being cream-colored with a tinge of red. Vishaka is very dear to Sri Krishna, and her service is dressing and decorating. Champakalata's Devi's complexion is the color of a blossoming yellow champaka flower, and her garments are the color of the blue jay bird. Her qualities are much like those of Vishaka. Champakalata is expert at collecting fruits, flowers, and roots from the forest. Her service is to offer jeweled necklaces and to fan with the chamara fan. Chitra and Sri Krishna are very affectionate towards each other, and she is very devoted to her service of bringing cloves and garlands. She is especially expert in the lovers' quarrel between Radha and Krishna. Tungavidya. Tungavidya is hot-tempered and expert at dissimulation. She is very expert at arranging the meeting of the divine couple. She is learned in Rasa Shastra, and she is learned in the 18 branches of knowledge: Niti Shastra, dancing, drama, literature, and all other arts and sciences. Tungavidya is a leader of the gopis, who are best of the dancers and are expert musicians at playing the mridanga and singing in recital halls. Induleka, she is learned in the science and mantras of various methods of charming snakes. She is also learned in the science of palmistry. She is expert at stringing various kinds of wonderful necklaces, decorating the teeth with red substances, gemology, and weaving various kinds of cloth. Her principal service is fanning with a chamara fan. Rangadevi's complexion is the color of a lotus stamen, and her dress is red like a jaba flower, hibiscus. She is an expert logician, and because of her previous austerities, she has attained a mantra by which she can attract Lord Krishna. Her service is offering chandana, that is sandalwood. Sudevi is sweet and charming by nature. She is the sister of Rangadevi. Her form and other qualities are so similar to those of her sister. The friends of Sudevi are expert at constructing leaf spittoons, playing music on bells, and decorating couches in various ways. Sudevi's service is to bring water, and she also plays the sarangi in different ragas. So we can see how beautiful and glorious these gopis are. And when we glorify them, then Krishna becomes pleased. So we will conclude today's class with a little song, just another few minutes, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's saying, "What have I seen today? In a Kadamba grove on the banks of the Yamuna, a beautiful blackish boy holding a long flute, Vamshi, is seated upon a throne of jewels, performing his pastimes as the king of all transcendental mellows. Situated upon the 8 petals of the jeweled altar is Sri Radha and Sri Hari, surrounded by their 8 chief gopis. There Krishna performs his amorous pastimes, which are just like a waterfall of nectar. By singing sweet songs and by dancing nicely, all the gopis satisfy the treasured divine couple. Thus I am beholding Krishna's pastimes with his beautiful female consorts expanding throughout the splendorous forest. For the sake of the mellows of such pastimes, I will not go to my home, but I will instead enter into the forest. Renouncing all shyness due to fear of family members, just worship the Lord of Vraja. This is the humble submission of Bhakti Vinodha." So let us hear and meditate on the beautiful form of Sri Shyama Sundar. Can someone play the mridangam? Ami Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanane Keherinu Saki Aja Ami Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanane Keherinu Saki Aja Shama Vamshidhari Mani Mancha Pari Kare Leela Rasaraja Krishna Keli Sudha Prasravana Ashtadala Pari
Shri Radha Shri Hari Ashta Sakhi Parijana Ami Yamuna Puline Kadamba Kanane Keherinu Saki Aja Sugita Nartane Sabasaki Gane Tushi Che Yugaladhane Krishna Leela Heri Prakriti Sundari Vistari Che Shobhavane Ghare na jaibo Vane praveshibo Olilara seratare Tyaji kula laja Bhaja vraja raja Vinoda minati kare Yamuna puline kadamba kanane Keherinu saki aja Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Srila Gurudev ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Any questions or comments? Okay. So the question is that when one is chanting and practicing Krishna consciousness, and when one gets material gains, whether in a positive situation or in a wrong place, whether you're chanting in a good place or you're chanting in a bad place, based on the material gains that you're getting, how do you differentiate between those, or how do you reconcile yourself?
I won't even say good place or a bad place, because I don't know whether the casino is a bad place.
Okay, so firstly, when one is practicing Krishna consciousness seriously, one does not even go to the casino. So that's the first underlying point, because there is no gambling, which is one of our regulative principles. So when we try to follow the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, so then there is no question of even being in a casino. So that is first of all ruled out as a way of life. But of course, somebody might go to a casino to give Krishna's love to someone and do a kirtan there or something. That's a different story. Like, devotees go to Vivid Sydney and they are chanting there. That's a different one. Secondly, when we chant, we don't look for any material gain. So that is Krishna's prerogative. That is anyabhilashita shunyam jnana vairag, that shloka. So without any desire for fruitive results, we practice bhakti. And that is pure chanting. That is pure bhakti. So we are slowly trying to get to that stage. So initially, even though someone may have, preferences, or may have different choices, or may be looking for material gains, what does Krishna say, or what is said in our Shastras? For whatever you desire, you just go to Krishna. But when we go to Krishna, what happens? Krishna will purify our desire in such a way that we will not have any more desires left. Because Krishna gives us the shelter of his own lotus feet to one who is chanting purely, to one who is eager to serve him, to one who is eager to serve his devotees. So for them, Krishna gives himself, that a person will not want anything else. So then what happens? All these contemplations that we have in the mind of this, whether this material gain is good or that material gain is good, is this, what I want? We don't worry about anything. You simply surrender to Krishna, be detached, and Krishna takes care of our life. So there are 2 things. One is being attached to the results of your activities when one is giving up. And one is being attached to our material activities, and one is being detached. Now, in bhakti, we don't do both. But what we do, we engage our attachments in Krishna's service. So whatever desires you may have, desire it so that you can please Krishna. If you're looking for any material gains, even if you are chanting and you feel that, okay, I might get some material gains out of this. Engage that gain when you get it in the service of Krishna. Then what happens? That material gain which you got gets purified. So then it becomes transcendental. And so in the process, we don't even think about what we get or what we don't get. We simply want to serve Krishna. We simply want to serve our Guru. We simply want to serve Krishna's devotees. And whatever you get is Krishna's blessing. It is Krishna's choice for us. So we just leave it in his hands.
So you're saying the risk of materialism is unverified in unending love towards Krishna. If I have an endless love towards Krishna,
Yes.
the risk of
That's correct. That's correct. So you won't get caught up, even if you get a material gain, you won't get carried away because it doesn't affect you anymore. You feel that even though I have received this, I'm going to engage in Krishna's service. So then where is the question of your own individual egoistic pleasure in that? So that gets peeled away like the different layers of skin, like, when you take an avocado and then you peel the skin and then you have the fresh avocado inside. So like that, initially we may have different desires, different gains. I want this, I want that. But when we keep chanting, when we keep practicing bhakti, and when we slowly, like as we saw, meditate on the form of the Lord, meditate on the devotees, glorify the Lord, simply coming to the temple, by doing all this,
change.
even if
There
you
are
have
Manvantar avatars also who
it's
appear.
okay,
They
it's
also
not
change.
wrong, because Srila Prabhupada
Indra
says
change.
even an ant
All
has
principal
an
demigods also change during that
Because the
time.
ant is
Which
running
means
after-
Chandra, Agni, Vayu, everyone. They change. Indra also changes. So why is Indra mentioning this is, he is saying, I'm so tiny. How tiny I am? I am only one of the 14 Indras in one day of your father. So this is how he is glorifying Lord Brahma. So that's the first point he says. In one day of Brahma, 14 Indras like me come and go, along with different sets of Manus and all the demigods. That one day equals 1000 cycles of